These men wrote about Jesus' resurrection as early as 48 AD. That's the book of Galatians. It was circulating round the ancient world in the year 48 AD. Now, do you see what that means? If you had a 30-year-old alive in 30 AD who had observed the resurrection, that 30-year-old was only 48 when the letter to the Galatians was circulating. All he had to do was say, I saw it. It did not happen that way. There were thousands of people who were still alive when the New Testament was circulating, and all they had to do was say, no, it didn't happen that way. That man really died, and he never rose from the dead. Loved ones, whenever you begin to examine the history of the resurrection, you come up against history that is better than anything else we have. Even if you tackle it along the line of, well, who knows if this is what they really wrote? After all, it was 1900 years ago. Maybe it's all been changed. Loved ones, you know that what you depend on is the manuscripts, you know. And old Caesar's Gallic Wars, written in 50 BC, 10 manuscripts we have. Some boy could have gone around and changed the 10 manuscripts. Really? We don't really know that Caesar wrote what we say he wrote. There were only 10 manuscripts, and those are ancient. It was written in 50 BC. The earliest one is 900 AD. Some fella could have rewritten the thing 5 or 6 or 7 times. In the New Testament, there are 4,000 Greek manuscripts behind the New Testament. The earliest one is 130 AD. 130 AD, there's a manuscript in the Manchester Museum of part of John's Gospel. Do you see how impossible it would be for some happy little forger to tour around all the caves of Qumran and all the deserts? And not only that, but he'd have to do it over a period of 1,000 years, because these 4,000 manuscripts are dated from 130 to 1,000 AD. He'd have to have a whole family. He'd have to get his sons to promise to get their sons to send their sons around and change all the manuscripts. It's impossible. You couldn't do it. Loved ones, really, when you deal with the resurrection, it's the best attested fact in history, and that's why I say to you, this is the most certain day in the whole world's life. And this man, Jesus, is really the Son of your Maker. He really is. He's the Son of your Maker. And if you try to get around it, you're just rejecting reality. And God, your God, on the final day will say, no, don't come that story with me that you hadn't enough evidence. Don't come that story with me that there were so many religious leaders and so many great religions that you couldn't tell which was true. My Son's death and resurrection was clearly different from all of the others. And my Son was obviously my Son. And don't tell me that I didn't give you enough evidence. I give you black and white evidence scattered throughout the world. I give you a living church that has never failed to celebrate his Last Supper one evening since it was first celebrated by him. Don't come and tell me that I didn't give you any certainty or any information. Loved ones, truly, I'm thinking of those of you who are sitting here today and saying, well, it's good, but it's not good enough. Loved ones, honestly, your God will call your bluff. He will. On the final day, he will say, look, you just didn't want to commit yourself to my Son. That was it. You just wanted to be your own God in your own life.